Greetings, fellow seekers, and welcome to my channel. My name is Marty, and I want to thank you for honoring me with your sacred time and attention today. I'd like to talk about ways to be low-key witchy at work. And how far you want to take this sort of depends on your work culture, on your position within your work, like the company ladder, and how kind of out of the broom closet you want to be. The most important thing I think to remember is that we're never proselytizing, right? If it would make you uncomfortable for, say, a Christian or somebody of an Islamic religion to be doing the same thing at your work, you probably shouldn't be doing that thing, right? Because you don't want it's important to remember that we're not trying to make other people uncomfortable or proselytize or convert them to our point of view. I'm not sure if I said that word right. But just ways to bring mindfulness, awareness of our own intentions and values into our workspace, if that is something that we choose to and are able to do. So one of those ways that's pretty easy, low-key, is when you are drinking your tea or coffee, when you're making that coffee at work in the break room or in your office, you can stir in intentions. You can say a small affirmation. Even just taking a few seconds to ground and center in between meetings, that taking a few breaths and going to that inner space and meeting everything from that place of like, I am in my higher awareness, is a great way to practice witchcraft throughout the day without that will actually, elevate your performance at work and isn't over the top, isn't obvious to other people. They'll just be like, wow, this bad bitch really glows. Like, what's up with that, right? So being in your power is, of course, the most powerful way to express your witchiness at work. But you can also create sachets or spell jars or sigils that help you to focus or to draw in success or prosperity, etc., whatever it is you want in your career or are working on at work. You can create spells around that and perform them at home. You can create those spell jars at home and bring them to work, hide them in your desk, hide them in your purse. You can have them out in the open if you happen to have like a small altar on your desk or in your shelf. A lot of times those things aren't very obvious to people if it's not full of a lot of symbology, if it's mostly pretty rocks or statuettes. And if people ask questions, you don't have to say, well, I'm a witch and that's my altar. You can always say, well, I just really admire Athena. She's XYZ, and those are qualities that I want to cultivate within my own psyche and my own personality, right? So also jewelry, right? Just like small stone jewelry, your rings, jewelry with symbology on it if you would like that, brooches. I think for some people too, like piercings can have symbolic meaning. Different number or placement of those piercings can be meaningful to the individual, right? Tattoos. Depending on whether or not that is allowed, right? Meditating, grounding, and centering anytime you're on a break, or as I said before, between meetings. Journaling at lunch, if you have a long enough lunch period where you can both nurture your body by eating mindfully and journaling, then that is something to be grateful for sure. If you feel comfortable, you can get if you want to take it a step further, you can pick up mini tarot and mini oracle cards. I got this oracle deck off of Etsy. This mini Rider-Waite deck came from Amazon. There's also even the Wild Unknown comes in pocket-sized. There's quite a few decks that actually come with pockets that have some special edition pocket size. You could create a travel altar like I have here. Just has an altar cloth, some sage, a candle. Be careful about leaving the candle in a hot space, right? It can melt and ruin all your stuff in your bag if you're not careful. And that's kind of where I keep my mini things. And then there's sort of these other pieces, a piece of Palo Santo, some black salt, some regular salts, incense matchbook, and some stones, and a little jar for an empty jar for water. But I don't keep water in it. I try to, I usually have a water bottle, so if I need a small amount of water for a ritual that I want to bless or whatever, on the go, then I have a jar to do that in. Right, and they just fold up into this nice little package. This is actually a coin purse that I used to teach English in Japan, and one of my students got it for me, so it's perfect for this application. And then, of course, my metal dice. I have a prayer braid in there that I made, a numerological dice, and usually I have my pendulum in there. It doesn't look like the pendulum's in there right now, though. So a travel altar like that could be something that you want to include in your practice, that you're able to use over your lunchtime, if you have a private space to do that in, or a not so private space to do that in. If you want to practice tarot and get people kind of like interested in it, and you want to meet people and you want to make friends that are kind of witchy adjacent, or even witches themselves, do offer tarot readings for people at work. And you don't have to be like totally out of the broom closet about it, like, oh, I'm a witch. Just say, oh, this is something I'm interested in. If you want a reading, I'm happy to try. And meet your own comfort level. You don't have to be like, I'm a professional tarot reader. If you're not, don't say that, right? You can just say, oh, it's a hobby of mine. It's fun. I'd be happy to accommodate you in a reading, right? It doesn't have to be anything all that serious. Dressing in color correspondences or veiling. Those can be ways of manifesting or protecting yourself psychically while you're at work. Weaving symbolism into your project names and logos. Having a values-based approach to your career, I think, is a super, super powerful way to bring your witchiness into your career. And what I mean by values-based approach is, if you are a pacifist, don't work for the military-industrial complex, right? Like, make sure that whatever it is that you value is in alignment with what you are doing is in alignment with what you value, right? And to the degree that you are able, right? If you are somebody who works 3 jobs to try and make ends meet and feed your children, then obviously you don't, sustainability is not the top of your priority list, and that's okay. And so part of that too is understanding where you are on that Maslow's hierarchy of needs list. Sometimes we don't have choice in our career, and if sustainability is really important to you, but you're a manager at Domino's, that can really start to weigh on your psyche. But please, please, please always remember that it is most important that you create a life of comfort before you have the luxury of living according to your values, oftentimes. So sometimes we have to compromise in that way. And I say this from a place of experience. Sometimes we have to be, I don't want to say out of integrity or unscrupulous, but sometimes it's, you can't be 100% zero waste. If all of your time is going to working these 3 jobs, you're probably eating out a lot. And that you need to be able to forgive yourself for that and be okay with that, because that's just part of the process. That's part of the journey. And it's really powerful to learn that acceptance. So a values-based approach, but not to the point where it starts to become something that you're now judging yourself for, or that you're now creating more stress in your life, right? Anything that we do for our spirituality should be something that uplifts us, that fills our emotional cup, that soothes inner turmoil. It shouldn't create more turmoil. And not that we should avoid things that create that turmoil, but that we're being mindful in managing what is healthy turmoil and what is not useful turmoil. Because there are more or less efficient pathways, right? Anyways, so a values-based approach, I talked a little bit about a work altar earlier. Just having small things on your shelf, some feathers or vases with flowers, stones. It could be symbolism if you're allowed to hang tapestries in your office or anything like that. And it doesn't have to be super obvious. It can just be like a triptych of three ladies, right? And to you, those three ladies represent the maiden, the mother, and the crone. But it's not necessarily obvious to anybody who walks in. It's just like, oh, it's three beautiful ladies on the wall. Oh, this person likes art. Yee-hee-hee. Right? So that's, depending on your comfort level and your space availability, right? And so that kind of brings us into like office feng shui, right? You could try arranging your office in certain ways to create to manifest prosperity and focus. You can use mirrors and bells, or even have prayer flags in your office, depending on the office culture and like your position within that, your like authority, right? So some of that depends, right? If you're high enough in position, you could lead meetings starting with a group meditation to just get us all in alignment, right? And it doesn't have to be overly like religious or witchy or whatever. It's just like, well, let's take 3 deep breaths so that we're all here and present in our meeting and bringing our best ideas. Wow, great group facilitation, right? And I actually, when I worked in Japan, our manager would show up before it was time for us teachers to be there, and she would smoke cleanse the space, and she would like do salt water and stuff. And it would you could still smell it when you got there, but I thought it was kind of nice, and so that depends on your work culture as well. So these were a ramble of witchy tips for bringing your practice into your workplace. I hope they were helpful to you. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment below for more tips and tricks on shamanic witchcraft, spirituality, and the intuitive arts.